Hello, this is our In-Service, Understanding Your Team, an Introduction to a Self-Contained Classroom with a Teacher of the Deaf, presented by Heather and Micah.
So here we've provided our content overview. We are going to discuss different teachers, such as who is the teacher of the deaf, the TOD, self-contained classrooms, your roles and responsibilities, communication, collaboration, accommodation with some accommodation examples, monitoring your student success, intervention, and what's next. There are different teachers. We do have general education for the mainstream, itinerant teachers, the travelers, and the TOD, the teacher of the deaf, or the special educator. Picture your typical general education teacher. They're the captains steering the ship of standard curriculum in mainstream classes. Meanwhile, you meet the itinerant teacher, the jet-setting educator who bounces between students and schools like a teaching ninja, ready to swoop in with specialized supports for specific students. We're also going to introduce you to the TOD, a superhero in the world of educators for deaf or hard of hearing students. They are armed with a toolkit of communication magic, from accommodations to tech gadgets and curriculum tweaks. They ensure that every student's unique needs are met. Plus, their classrooms are like cozy cafes offering intimate one-to-one attention. And it is vital to unravel the roles early on to foster teamwork and dodge any role-related mix-ups. So we're going to keep the educational harmony humming. For our purposes, we are going to be looking at the TOD, the teacher of the deaf, in a self-contained classroom. So this classroom is separate from the mainstream or the general education. And in a self-contained classroom, the TOD supports cultural differences and fosters a diverse learning environment for student success. The self-contained classroom offers a smaller teacher-to-student ratio and is able to focus more on student needs. This includes identifying diverse student needs, such as trauma responses, to be reported to professionals and monitored while providing varied support strategies, and of course, other factors as well. Strong social emotional skills and direct instruction are utilized, along with additional strategies to aid in the student's development and overall processing. Classroom instruction can be provided directly in the student's primary language. For example, many self-contained classrooms can utilize American Sign Language for instruction, and that includes amongst their peers having that direct communication with their peers. This also provides direct access for learning, communication, social emotional development, and even learning through play. Now, looking at roles and responsibilities, as previously mentioned, the TOD in a self-contained classroom is responsible for working with the DHH, the deaf and hard of hearing students. The TOD, the teacher of the deaf, in a self-contained classroom meets their students' unique communication needs while providing that clear and direct instruction to make sure that all of their students have equal access to their education. The TOD also has to be aware of all of the students' needs and all accommodations or modifications to be implemented in their instruction. Another responsibility is providing various instructional strategies and interventions for student development based on their needs, analyzed from progress monitoring. The teacher of the deaf is also responsible for evaluating their overall monitored progress, providing detailed data, and making informed decisions on how to support the student. Now, this is not done by only the teacher of the deaf. This is a collaborative effort with the full IEP team, which is why we emphasize that trust and constant communication are going to be crucial for all of our success. Now, your IEP team consists of various professionals, including the case manager, that is typically the student's primary teacher, or the teacher of the deaf. And you also have additional supports, including a potential speech-language pathologist, counselors, healthcare professionals like nurses, the audiologist. Even the parents and guardians are included as part of the IEP team. It is anyone who is working directly with that student. The teacher of the deaf is also responsible for setting high expectations for their students and maintaining those consistently. You have to follow evidence-based research, data, and constantly adapt based on the student's individual development. Now, the TOD must, of course, follow all of the up-to-date laws and regulations while maintaining ethical practice, the same as all of us professionals here at the school. And this, of course, ensures that we meet all of the requirements and expectations for the positions. We also want to ensure that all of our students continue to have that equal access to education and that everything is diverse and inclusive in this welcoming environment. Next, we want to discuss that emphasis on communication we had mentioned. Effective communication will be crucial when working with a teacher of the deaf in a self-contained classroom. Communication can vary based on the individuals involved, their experiences, and how they choose to communicate. As many of us know, there are many different methods to communication, including verbal, nonverbal, and even cultural differences. Nonverbal could include sign language, but we're focusing more on those nonverbal cues, body posture, facial expressions, and other reactions. For example, Anglo-European Americans view eye contact as an expression of honesty and directness, which is important to keep cultural differences in mind, but other cultures may find that more uncomfortable and not as direct or honest. It might be more challenging. So we want to make sure that we are understanding each other's differences in terms of communication, cultural differences, and find that perfect, effective method for communication. Verbal responses need to be highly effective for us to make an effective collaboration. We want to be patient, considerate, self-reflect, actively engaged, responsive, and make sure we have quality time and turn-taking for those discussions. For example, in patience, you need to wait for the other person in our collaboration to finish their thought, share their information, and make sure that you wait for them to finish before you interject and respond. We want to make sure that the whole team feels that what they are communicating is being heard and valued. This also gives time to make sure that we're all clearly understanding the intended message and preventing any misunderstandings. It's important that each person in any discourse feels that they are being heard. Verbal prompting and nonverbal cues are appropriate in terms of engagement and attentiveness. So make sure that you are always demonstrating your interest in the conversation. Effective listening is going to be crucial in any team effort, as we all know. And you want to make sure you're not interrupting the speaker, prompt them by asking questions, make sure you're staying on topic and not randomly changing to dismiss that conversation. We don't want to leave any awkward breaks or pauses between our discourse. Nothing's worse than that awkward silence. And we want to make sure that when we're collaborating, we do have that quality time. You want to give time for responses, for turn taking, your levels of engagement. You can't rush a conversation at the end, and that's important for making sure all of our data on our students and all of our teaching and strategies are shared effectively. You can make the other person feel as if you're trying to hurry them or dismiss them, and we want to make sure no details get missed in our collaboration. Each team member needs time to share their knowledge, their background. Every one of us has a different expertise. It's important to always keep in mind that during correspondence, especially when it's electronic, we need to maintain our level of professionalism through each and every discourse. Now, we want to change it. I know this was a lot of information to begin with. We're going to redirect you to a fun activity. The following video is going to represent how some of your DHH, your deaf and hard of hearing students, might experience the world and your classroom. Let's get into it.
What did you do? Was lip reading a challenge? Well, lip reading is actually a skill that everyone does to an extent, both deaf and hearing. But deaf people use use the tool of lip reading to fill in the blanks of auditory information they had missed or to confirm what they hear. But only 30% of the English language can be accurately read on lips. This leads me to my next point. Accommodations come in 4 different forms: presentation accommodations, response accommodations, setting and environmental accommodations, and timing and scheduling accommodations. Presentation accommodations are accommodations made to allow your deaf or hard of hearing student to access information in ways other than auditory or visual means. Response accommodations, there's often a lag in response from your deaf or hard of hearing student because of the processing time it takes for the communication input to go from the teacher to an interpreter, from the interpreter to then the student, and the opposite process to then get the student's response. Response accommodations are accommodations that are made so that your deaf or hard of hearing student can respond to questions or prompts. Setting and environmental accommodations. Schools and classrooms can oftentimes be noisy, and for deaf or hard of hearing students, the environmental needs for them to access information may be different. This can include where the student is seated in the classroom, away from projectors that make noise, or to have preferential seating to their needs, either in front for the best listening environment, or in the back of the room to have greater visual input. And then lastly, timing and scheduling accommodations. Deaf and hard of hearing students will often experience something called listening fatigue, which is fatigue experienced because more brain power is being allocated to hearing and understanding what is being said audibly. So with that, timing and scheduling accommodations may be needed to may need to be made to allow for hearing breaks so a student can reset and decompress after working hard to listen for a long period of time, or if there is important information to schedule that time of instruction to be when a student is most responsive. Some accommodation examples can include CART. CART stands for Communication Access for Real-Time Transcription. It is a stenographer accompanying a student to transcribe everything that is said. They listen to what the instructor is saying, type it into their stenograph machines where it is sent to a program that the student can read and follow along on their own device. Another accommodation could be interpreters. Interpreters are usually a 2-person team that accompanies the student to class and translates everything that is said in English into ASL to provide access to the deaf or hard of hearing students. And finally, FM systems can be attached to a student's cochlear implant or hearing aids. That attachment is then synced to a microphone that the teacher would wear near their mouth. So the deaf or hard of hearing student can hear what is being said more clearly. FM systems cut out background noise or issues of proximity to the student by sending the sound directly to their hearing aids or cochlear implant so they can hear more clearly what is being said. These are just a few examples of what accommodations could look like in the classroom. There are so many more that we would love to discuss with any of you at a later date if any questions arise.
So now we're going to discuss monitoring student success. You can monitor your students' success within the self-contained classroom by analyzing their improved academic achievement. And this is, of course, based on state and district testing and consistent progress monitoring within the classroom. Students will also have positive attitudes and show more motivation in their various activities. You can also see how students demonstrate appropriate social emotional skills with the proper use of diverse coping strategies. Finally, you will see strength in the student's independence and autonomy. This includes self-advocacy as the student develops within your class. Now, for intervention, there are multiple methods. One such intervention method for vocabulary building, such as the Freyer's model, could be supported with definitions, pictures, synonyms, and the use in a sentence. But there are other models that could include word banks, word webs. Multiple methods of intervention could be used. This is one example just to provide you as an insight as to what you might see within your class. Clear and direct instruction, hands-on activities, and interactive academic games are also different forms of intervention that provide a diverse hands-on learning experience for your students. There was a recent study on vocabulary intervention that found that recent technological advances and newly developed programs that follow specific instructional strategies, such as the use of synonyms with visual supports, actually best benefits our students with disabilities in their vocabulary acquisition. Again, many different forms of interventions that you could use. This is just one example that we might see within the class. And of course, these are all based on the newest research and evidence-based data that is being collected. And so intervention methods are constantly changing and developing for our students.
What's next? The main points to remember are to collaborate, communicate, and follow up. This is a lot of information and it may be new to some people, but we are here to be on this journey with you. This is a lot of information for 15 minutes, and we do not want you to leave feeling overwhelmed. So please take a handout. This contains some of the highlights of our presentation and our contact information. If in the future you have questions or like to schedule a time to have a more in-depth session, please feel free to let either of us know. As for the making of this presentation, these are the references that we used.